Well, good morning, everyone, and I'm seeing some, I'm so happy to see you again here this morning, especially with continued enthusiasm, despite, you know, if you look at me with my half-closed eyes. But I think you already know who I am at this point, but I would like to introduce Tom Mottl, who is going to be sharing the session with me. And maybe I should have Tom give his own introduction. I know that he's spent a lot of his career at the Bureau of Land Management, and so he's worked a lot in forestry. And he will be up here shortly to do that introduction. But as we, maybe I'll introduce the session too while he's making his way forward here. This is all about best practices and from many other climate action plans. And the one thing we know, you've already heard about a lot of good ideas in the other sessions, and so I'm not going to really I'm going to gloss over some of those things unless there's other ideas that you have, but feel free to put up a hand and intersperse your comments as we go through this, because your ideas are important in this session as well. And this is really just an introduction to kind of get us warmed up for the Climate Cafe. And Tom will provide his own introduction now, because I think somehow that he knows himself much better than I do.
Well, again, thanks everybody for coming here, especially if you were on a full day yesterday, even going into the evening. Again, my name is Tom Mottl. I graduated from Colorado State University a long time ago, and that's in Fort Collins, Colorado. So I'll probably be throwing in my thoughts about Fort Collins as we talk. But anyway, a little background on me. Watershed science. I went on to work for the USGS for a little while, and then followed my passion in life, and that was I love rivers, and I love river running. And so I ended up being a combo guy, doing hydrology and recreation management for the BLM for my career. Retired about 4 years ago. Prineville is the last office I worked in. Actually, I only worked in Taos, New Mexico, and Prineville, Oregon. And so, again, I've been thinking about climate change since 1976 in graduate school, when I first saw it coming through a Scientific American article about the Greenland ice core and the results of that. So while I haven't been active in it until more recently, I have been aware of it for a long time, before politics and religion intervened and created distractions. Okay, so that's a little background on me.
So I guess what we want to look at first is that why are we doing this in the first place? And of course, our ultimate goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And what we know is when we look at other communities that have climate policy, we know that it results in healthier and wealthier cities. And we know that it's something that involves individuals, businesses, and government, and that really what we're all about here is cleaning our air, protecting our water, and creating jobs in the process. And as you heard from Matt McCrae yesterday, the former sustainability director from the city of Eugene, these are policies we should be doing anyway, because they save money on our energy and our water. And so they should really be interwoven into everything we do. And so the common elements that we found in many of the plans are that energy and water, we've already mentioned, solar, wind, renewable energy, reforestation. This is a key element, not only because trees, of course, protect our air, but they provide many benefits. If you remember the green infrastructure session with Jenna Tilt yesterday, Dr. Jenna Tilt, is that trees and green infrastructure provide so many benefits, especially as we move forward in Central Oregon. And clean transportation, waste reduction, and this is really important too, because, and I'm not sure, maybe someone can ask me or answer me on this. I don't think that Ben has a pay-as-you-throw model for waste, do we? No? Yeah, I didn't think so. I just wanted to make sure before I said anything. But this is a model that is really an excellent one. It's really needs to be included in climate plans because you want the people who are creating the most waste to pay more for it, so it provides an incentive for not putting waste into our landfill. Because of course that landfill is going to create methane emissions, which we learned yesterday is 85 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. And so those are things that we might think about in the future here. And then the other thing is local investment in our local community. That's going to help our community anyway. It's going to help with climate change, but it also will help our community. And so we want to be able to not only minimize the need for trucks that are going to put that diesel soot into the air, but also provide our sustainable food that we can all agree is more nutritive and healthier. So what is the role of government? And this is really a hot topic, and I'm sure that there would be, if we had this forum going with a different audience, I'm sure that there would be 100 opinions in the room. But one thing we know is that climate policy is more effective when lawmakers support it at all levels. And of course, we don't have that going on now. And so what we know is that cities, if we are looking at cities to provide this direction, and that's really what this climate conference has been all about, is that we feel that cities are now leading the way. If you want any research examples to show this, there's the C40 cities, and there's the US Conference of Mayors. And if you do any research at all, you will see that many cities across the globe, and many of them in America, are now leading the way with climate policy, irregardless of what their state legislators are doing, or irregardless of what federal policy is doing. And so many in the climate field feel that cities are going to lead the way and hopefully lead there once they determine that climate policy is really good, that it's really not destroying the economy, as some do feel, that those actions are going to be adopted on a more wider scale. So what we know is that those city, state, and federal policies need to probably have both carrots and sticks. Can anyone tell me what a carrot is?
Reward.
Pretty easy. A reward. That's right. How about a stick? What's a stick?
Regulation.
Regulation.
Punishment. I'm kidding.
Pardon me?
I said punishment.
Punishment. Yeah, I like that. Get the whip out. Well, it could be regulation, but it also could be just like what we just talked about, pay as you throw. So people pay more for a behavior that you don't want them to adopt. This is how carbon pricing works, is that we're basically raising the price of carbon-based fuels so that they're used less and provides an incentive to adopt to a low-carbon economy. So what we want to do is figure out which carrots and sticks are going to work best in our community. And the other thing that we need to look at is private-public partnerships, because it isn't going to work if we don't have those going on. It's really, because this is really an action that involves everyone, we can't just have one sector of the economy doing it. For one thing, it's not fair, and we know that if the city wants to get others to do it, that the city has to lead by example. And did you hear that from Michelle Krim yesterday? Portland. Yes.
Fabulous ideas.
Yes. Portland makes sure that they lead by example. So Bend, we're going to hopefully encourage that Bend leads by example too. And other cities in Central Oregon. But how do we provide those incentives? Certainly they can be money, that's good. But we hear a lot here that we don't have money, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But there are other incentives that really don't require monetary value. There are things like recognition, which we did yesterday with Roger Worthington. What a great session, knowing that we have some businesses in Bend that are already doing these behaviors. This is great. Many people like public recognition. We also can give preferences to people. So when they go downtown, maybe they get a special parking spot. Maybe they get a free parking spot instead of a paid parking spot. What are the perks? Does anybody have any ideas for what other perks they might have that we could give people to encourage them to do the right behavior?
One of Portland's ideas that Michelle Krim talked about that really surprised, I just hadn't heard of it, was they do fix-it festivals and bring in, well, Portland, 1,500 people a year, she said, to a city-arranged
Can you hear her okay?
yeah, a city-arranged fair where they have people who are willing to help with people's problems ranging from gardening to fixing their bicycles and home weatherization and home repair. So that kind of technical assistance, making it just easier for the people and doing it in a fun kind of way because it was a family event.
Now, you're from the Rogue Valley, is that right?
Mhm.
Because we talked yesterday.
Okay, we do
Kim,
that here
yeah.
for 4 times a year, the Environmental Center does a repair cafe, and
Oh,
so we do that
I
same
had-
thing
wow.
here, so,
We don't
yeah.
have
Isn't
it.
that
It's like,
just-
I'm jealous,
isn't
that's
that-
great.
Isn't that limited? It's not talking about, getting their home secure and so on and so forth.
We don't talk weatherization, it's more fixing and,
Fixing items.
yeah, and each fair focuses on a different type of thing, like, so sometimes we'll focus on like mechanical things to be fixed, but, they fix jewelry, they do, sewing fixes,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so we do that 4 times a year.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I think
that's really a great idea. Someone else have their hand up? Thank you for that idea, but that's certainly something that could happen in other cities as well. Did I see, yes, Jason?
One perk may seem simple, but electric vehicle parking downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Electric
yeah.
vehicle only parking.
I'm all for that, yes. Yes.
I was in Asheville, North Carolina this summer, and they have I have a picture of it here, they have a bicycle benefits program, so when you ride your bike, you save money at participating businesses. So that way you could engage the green businesses, and there
Oh,
would be
yeah,
a sticker
yeah.
on the window, and you would have a
Yeah, what a great idea. Anyone else? Yes, Shannon?
Going back to recognition, when they talked about, when Matt talked about what they do in Eugene, they give awards 1, 2, and 3 levels to certain businesses that are doing well as far as sustainability and being green. And I thought that was an excellent idea.
Well, we do that, and the Environmental Center does that too. The Environmental Center has the sustainability, and we talk about climate. That's the first year we've done it this year. So hopefully next year it will be bigger and better. But yes, and David?
I've been curious about the role of neighborhood associations to give people a lower level of input rather than having to go all the way up to the city council level, say, and have a more grassroots democracy, if
Yes.
possible, to address some of
Yes.
these things.
Good idea. Theo?
Well, that gave me a different idea, so I forgot the first one. The technical assistance that they gave in Portland, and that they did neighborhood groups, like you were saying, and neighborhood groups could get solar together and having,
Discounts.
and have all the ins and outs and all the things that are hard to do done for them.
Yes, excellent, excellent. And these are all the public-private partnerships we're talking about, maybe that you mentioned too, that the businesses get involved, maybe provide a reduced discount or however we can think about to make that happen. So I'm done at 9:30 in here? Or 9:15? Or 9? 9:30. 9:30, okay. So the other thing we can do, another hand, Theo? Or?
Yes, one of the things that Portland did that we haven't even touched, but I think is important, is making people find out with their energy. output is.
Yes, yes, so what is the carbon footprint? And I did hear that in the evaluations as well. People are saying, well, people don't understand how much carbon we create just everyday living. So yes, and I will have a slide on that here, but yes, to make that information more prevalent throughout our community, excellent.
Well, just to follow up on that, I noticed that Park City, Utah did that, and they have a section on their website where they have their carbon planning, and they have a low carbon diet where you can log on and calculate your household or individual footprint. So I think that would be necessary.
And the state of Oregon does have one. Tom?
Well, since we're talking about government and part of government is the school system. And I think, this is going to be a generational thing, and I think having each of our school buildings green and having lots of stuff going on within the schools, they're emphasizing dealing with the issues of climate in terms of adapting and mitigating. I think that is extremely powerful, and then that youth is going to, as we saw yesterday, example of bringing the youth in to a city council and real quickly getting a result. I think, so I see government being schools being part of the government system, and that could be a very effective.
And parks and recreation also.
Yes, trying to get, yes, that would be excellent to get them involved.
There should be solar panels on the skating pavilion.
Yes, well, we have definitely so, yes. You're not the only one shouting that tune.
That's right.
Okay, do we have any builders in the room? Or any people that, I know that we have some that have been involved in green building, but express permitting, of course, could help the builders adopt more green building practices. Do we have any ideas on that? Okay, well, I'm going to move through here, maybe do our, so that we can get through the session, we can hear more of your ideas. So one of the things that's really important, it's the thing that we hear a lot, is that, do you remember when I don't know how you guys did with your kids, but when we raised our kids, we always told them, the right attitude determines your altitude. And I don't know who said that, but I thought it was just a great quote. It might be Stephen Covey, or I'm not quite sure, but the right attitude is really essential towards getting climate policy done. Is that we have to have a positive can-do attitude, and we find that that really overcomes the barriers of the negativity that you have from individuals that don't realize that this is actually a positive thing for the community. And so the other attitude we need to adopt is that this is an everyone issue. It's not a me or you issue, and that our small actions add up. So that even if you're the only carbon reduction or carbon dioxide reduction that you do is shutting off your lights and shutting off your computer at night, that it's okay. That's a good action. So if it's a small action, and if everyone does it, it's going to have huge impact. And the city of Boston did that. What they did, and of course they're a bigger city than we are here, and any city we have in Central Oregon, but what they did is they have a climate plan with goals, of course, and they said, well, if every citizen, and they have 600,000 people in the city of Boston. They said, if every citizen took just 5 small actions, whether that's doing a cold water wash, not using your dryer, hanging dry your clothes, shutting off your computer and your cell phone at night, and shutting off your lights, turning down your thermostat, just one of any of those 5 simple efforts, those add up, and they would meet their climate goals 5 years earlier. How great that would be. And it would also take 20,000 cars off the road. So we have to really promote the idea that small actions count. And we also, as we developed the climate policy too, we had individuals that said, oh, we don't need goals. Well, the thing is that how do you accomplish anything if you don't have any goals? And we all know that, those of us that went to school, if we want to achieve an educational result, we set a goal to do that. And the same, it's really no different with climate policy. And I know there are individuals that don't want to set goals because they feel that it's too restrictive. But realistically, when we look at what's happening in other cities, it does require the goals. And we have goals that have already been set for us by the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, through the scientists, through the United Nations. So we know that that involves fossil fuel and greenhouse gas reduction. And the other thing that we need to do is tracking. And this relates back to, we need to have people understand the amount of carbon they're putting into the atmosphere. So we need to get them to look at their energy bills. We need to put them in touch with their energy and their water use, because water, of course, creates greenhouse gas emissions as well. And we need to make whatever plans we make, they should ideally be integrated through all aspects of planning, and that includes transportation, affordable in-city housing. Now, why should we have affordable in-city housing? And we saw this come up actually on our idea board, is that came up a couple of times. Why is it important to have affordable in-city housing?
Because density is the way to fight transportation, the car-dependent world.
I'm not sure everybody heard that, but it's such an important point I wanted to hear.
Because density is the way that people can walk or bike to shopping, to school, to daily life.
That's right. And did I see another hand back here? Yes.
Just limiting long distance transport that people have to do.
Yes.
From the pine.
Yes, yes. That's really one of our biggest greenhouse gas emission sinks probably, is traveling from other cities. Right now, because there's no affordable housing in Bend, or very little, people, I've talked to people that actually commute here from Madras. So, any other hands on that, or ideas?
Because we are just as strong as the poorest people here.
Yes.
We, our strength comes from the equality that we have
Yes.
in our city.
Thank you, Theo. What a good concept is that we are, and I'm just going to repeat it, we are only as strong as the people we have here already. And what that means is we need more social equity, because we all need each other. Businesses can't survive without staff. And if staff have to live in Madras to come here to work, they don't want to work here. And so we all help each other. And so we need to think of a model that is more socially equitable. And the other thing is, we talked yesterday about the need for electrification and how important that's really going to be for our future at all levels. Not only are the vehicles that, well, if we have to drive, for one thing, of course it's best if you don't drive, but if you have to drive, drive electric. And that means not only individual cars, but that means our fleets. So we should be integrating these into our governments as well. And so,
Some more questions?
I just have a constant question about electric vehicles, which I think are a great idea. But where does the energy come from that is charging those electric vehicles? Pacific Power has, what, 60% of its energy coming from coal-fired plants?
yes. Well, and Shanann, I don't know, did you go to Zach Hankins' presentation yesterday? I think he has a piece on that. California has studied that, and you still get better mileage with an electric vehicle. I mean, I drive a hybrid and I get 50 miles, well, between 44 and 47 miles to the gallon, and that's better than any pure gas car. So electric, and if you drive a purely electric car, even if you have to plug it into the grid, you're still going to get many more miles with it. So it's going to be more energy efficient, and that grid hopefully is being cleaned up. And also, some people just charge their electric vehicle with the panels on their house. Or they have freestanding panels that work to charge that vehicle. And so that's what we're encouraging people. And did I see another hand in the back somewhere?
I was just gonna make that suggestion. I was talking to the folks yesterday about having my own charging station at my home, just for a car.
Yeah.
It's still powered by coal, but that is changing.
Oh, no, the charging, but no, with solar panels.
Oh, with solar panels, yes, absolutely.
I just mentioned that back to the hybrid, we have the pure electrics, but you have the hybrid. And what dawned on me the other day, they talked about idling, and what's really amazing with the Prius is it doesn't keep running, it stops. when you are at a stoplight. So you're not idling, and of course, the idling had a big contribution. I saw some of those figures yesterday, what idling was doing in terms of throwing carbon up. So even if you're not pure electric, if you're just hybrid, you're really doing something better.
Yes, yes.
As a concomitant idea, along with your electrification theme, we also need to advocate every chance we get for utilities to rely less and less on coal and natural gas and more on renewables, because of the comment that was made in the back of the room saying,
Yes.
yeah, but if I have an electric car, where's that power come from? And the answer is 60% coal at the present moment.
Yes.
And that applies also to ideas like high-efficiency heat pumps. If I get a heat pump to replace my gas heating in my house right now, and the COP of that heat pump averages 3, I'm exactly breaking even on carbon production and cost. I have to get up to a COP of 4, which is available but more expensive, before I start getting ahead on that issue. And that's because, in part, of the coal.
Well, and we do, I mean, the coal to clean energy transition bill, which was passed last year, is going to get Oregon off coal by 2030.
We're
But,
outsourcing our pollution.
but, you know, we're going to continue to have to advocate for that too, to make sure that happens. So one thing I encourage everyone in this room to do is that we need to work together as a community, our organizations, our businesses, and even individuals, to build community awareness. And that means that, you know, the things we've been talking about really in the last day and a half is that we're going to need to collaborate. We're not only going to need to collaborate, but we also need to figure out how can we expand. We're already doing some good things. So how can we expand those things we're already doing? So how can we get people to understand the concept of lights out? Or should we have a cut your carbon challenge at the city level or at the county level? And should we have a green tip of the day that we know goes out through the entire city and county? And I guess I didn't hear Michelle yesterday, but she must have talked about anti-idling. But 10 seconds did she talk about that? 10 seconds is a cutoff. If you're going to run your car for more than 10 seconds, you should shut your car off.
Wow.
Unless it's a Prius. I drive a Prius. I love my Prius. And it does shut itself off. So, but we look at, in the United States, it's 80 million pounds of carbon just from idling. That's a ton. And I don't know if you caught what Greg said yesterday, Greg Delgado, but he let us know that the diesel soot in our air in Deschutes County is 41 times the recommended level by the EPA. We have more diesel soot in our air creating cancer than we even realize. And yet Oregon law exempts trucks over 26,000 pounds. Can you believe that? And so if you're riding behind a truck, you are breathing toxic, cancer-causing diesel soot. Yes?
These railroad locomotives also can
Really?
idle for hours at a time while these guys are on lunch break.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and there's a whole lot of things.
There is new, I don't think it's Peterbilt, but major semi-truck manufacturers are building technology that automatically shuts off the big rigs after so many seconds of idling. So it's a matter, I mean, so it's not like that, it would be a matter of promoting local businesses and to use this technology, and also some incentives for the drivers to change their habits, because you know, if you've been doing something for 20 years, you kind of
Yes, yes, that's right.
But when they're unloading their truck at Safeway or somewhere where you know, I mean, it's just, it's two steps. The technology is there, and people need to be encouraged to use it.
Is there someone we haven't heard from yet, or? That's okay, I'll get to you. Okay, Theo, looks like no one else wants to.
Well, at Sisters Elementary School, there's a big sign that says it's not cool to idle at school.
Oh, yeah.
And then it says how it's affecting your child's health.
Yes.
And I think that should be in every school.
Yes, I agree, great idea. And New York, what they do they have a 3-minute limit for idling, and it's 1 minute near schools. And so what they do is, they don't, it's really hard to enforce anti-idling, is the problem. But what they do is if a bystander gets a video and they document that, then the bystander gets 50% of, up to 50% of the fine. So that's a cool way to enforce it, isn't it? So the EPA has an idle toolkit, and we, if we wanted to, that would be one of the things we could start working on and use that idle toolkit, or maybe Sister School has something we
Well,
can
there's a sign.
adopt.
Real quick, I want to just pick up on something. I can't help it because I'm into youth. Sometimes the kids correct the parents. And so if we get the youth on board, they're going to affect, many will affect the parents as well. And they'll say, Mom, why are you idling the car? We shouldn't be idling
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
true. Yeah,
And just carry that thought into all the other issues.
Kim?
And that concept worked with the Bend Energy Challenge because we did a 4-part energy series for the 6th graders last year and sent them home with a list. They had to audit their house on their usage and then sent them home with a list of the top 5 things. And we had so many parents say, my kid's on my case, they're going around turning off lights, and
I love it.
one child even asked that they get the savings from the utility bills since they were the ones that were driving it, and they get the savings.
Yeah. Boost my allowance, and you had a comment.
About 10 years ago, the Oregon Department of Energy was doing a study concerning carbon dioxide as a method of controlling ventilation in schools. 10 years ago, the Oregon Department of Energy was doing a study about concerning carbon dioxide as a regulating mechanism for ventilation in schools. And they found in one school that the ventilation system was just going nuts certain times of the day in spite of having carbon dioxide controls. And they found out that the carbon dioxide was being induced from the buses idling out front of the school.
Yeah.
And so that's a concrete example of just how polluting idling is.
Yeah, so I think we know where we need to go with that. And what about the urban forest plan? Now, I tried to find out if the city of Bend has an urban forest plan, and I couldn't find one. Does anybody know if we have an urban forest plan? Yes.
This is an issue that's interesting to me. I'm a retired forester, and I think right now things have kind of lapsed a little bit with the city of Bend. There's a national recognition cities can get to be a Tree City USA, and Bend used to have that, and they've kind of let it lapse. Sun River, Sisters, Redmond still have maintained that. I think the key piece is just kind of attention by city council and city staff to the issue. There are some tree ordinances. They do, I assume, use a little bit of their budget for their urban tree maintenance, but I think the missing piece is just, I think the city council's kind of taken on this as one of their many issues, and they probably need to delegate it to some sort of tree committee, and then I think there could be great things. But I think this could be a win-win and kind of the low-hanging fruit we talked about yesterday. I think everybody likes trees, and there's so many, not only climate change benefits, but just social economic benefits from taking care of your trees, and I'd really encourage this group to put this toward the top of the list. And I think you get a lot of people on board who might not normally engage with this issue.
And what about Bend Parks and Rec? Do you think they have anything?
Well, I think it's interesting, again, because you have the government, the taxing districts are separate, and people don't realize that. I would think probably more than half of the publicly owned trees in the city of Bend are probably park trees and park district trees and not city of Bend trees. So I think there's an opportunity for the district and the city to work together. Perhaps jointly they could hire an urban forester and each of them only pay half of their salary, and that person could kind of be responsible for the whole shebang.
Are you guys all hearing okay? How about
Yesterday I talked to John Skidmore, the assistant manager of the city, and he said that there is no tree protection in Bend. We live in Wood River Village, and our neighborhood is getting gentrified, so we have half-acre lots and quarter-acre lots, and so large houses are being constructed right now, and it's totally permissible to go in and cut down every single tree. So
that's just a shame. That's a crying shame, because up in Seattle, I know as part of their building code requirement, because I used to live in Seattle, that you have to install trees. I think about 10% or so of your lot has to include landscaping with trees.
And I think it's not just wiping out the trees and then planting new trees, but also how can you build developments around established trees? I think Northwest Crossing got a lot of awards when it was designed because it integrated the neighborhood with the
Retained
trees. So
trees.
a lot of development may be occurring without a lot of thought. They think, well, we're gonna build this house right next to the pine tree, but then they've cut all the roots and the tree eventually dies.
Yeah, and you had a comment?
I was just gonna say, in Poland, you have to have a permit to remove the tree, you have to have justification for doing so.
Where is that, Portland?
In Poland.
In Portland, yes. And even in Arizona, I know they have regulations on trees. Arizona, imagine a red state, and they have regulations on tree removal. The saguaros, actually. David?
It may be an issue beyond this, but several of the presentations yesterday gave me the idea that under certain climate change scenarios, the whole issue of reforestation is going to be much different. And so I think that's something that we need to look at as well. We may not be able to plant as we have before under certain conditions.
But there are also organizations that help with this. I believe there's the Arbor Foundation, which works with groups and cities and individuals and whatnot. And we have about 15 minutes left? Or?
You still have 15 minutes, I believe.
Okay. So I think we have more time for discussion if we want to go there, but I think the main thing is just to kind of summarize where we've been, is that we need to set a goal or set a set of goals. But setting goals is important, and also we need to spread the word, and then we need to rinse and repeat that, because this is not going to happen just by talking about it once. It's like people have come up to me and said, well, gee, such and such wasn't here, and such, you know, we should have had these people here. And yes, I would have liked to have, every single city staff member from all of Central Oregon here. But we can't expect that to happen all at once, even though we'd like to have it happen all at once. I think we have to look at how are we going to grow this? How are we going to learn from how we do this? And so I just refer to that as rinse and repeat. And as you see here, we have to let people know what is the household carbon calculator? What are we doing in households or as individuals? And also, what about businesses? And I didn't mention this yesterday, but I think there's really a lot that businesses can do. And so because we have a little time left, I wonder if we could spend some time talking about that. Because I think that some businesses have already started these things. G5, for example, encourages and I know the Bluebird Coffee all encourage their employees to ride their bicycle, and they provide a bicycle rack. I believe that you can provide showers for employees, provide them with a locker, allow them to wear clothing at work that is conducive to riding a bicycle. So these are all things businesses can do, as well as other things. And so I toss it out to you. What are some things that businesses could do to reduce their carbon footprint?
Earlier slide you showed addressed awareness. One point of awareness is at the community level, and we can find out real easily what our community is producing in the way of greenhouse gases from fuel use, from natural gas and electricity, by getting the information from the city revenue people concerning tax receipts on the taxes on electricity and natural gas.
Actually.
And yeah, I did that 10 years ago, and at that time the countywide use of energy was about 170 million in dollars, and you can translate that into carbon and so on. But the second thing after awareness at the community level, that enables you to track progress that you're making if you do that. Second thing is on a by building basis, and I believe the lady from Portland said something about universal benchmarking, and we can go one step beyond universal benchmarking. Universal benchmarking kind of tells you where you are, but it doesn't really tell you the effects of your immediate actions. if you go to diagnostic benchmarking, which will be possible with the improvements in metering that are coming down the road, you can tell from week to week whether stuff that you've done in your facility has helped your energy use pattern or harmed it.
Thank you so much. Well, one of the things that we didn't cover in the climate conference, we thought of doing it, but the city of Bend has already completed a kind of a preliminary greenhouse gas emission study done by Matt Schinderman. Is Matt here today? Just looking at the city of Bend operations. I thought he was here yesterday, but I'm not quite sure. Anyways, it was done by Matt Schinderman and some of the students at OSU. But really, the city of Bend emissions are really such a small percentage of our emissions in Central Oregon. And so that's why we had to include the community goal. And so we need to figure out a way, as you mentioned, which is really an excellent idea, is how to get some calculations and try to work with the county on what their emissions are. But yes, there was more comments back here. How do you have it?
Oh, I was just gonna say a very easy program is the businesses can get involved in commute options, you know, and the employees are rewarded for carpooling with their employees and also biking to work. And they get rewarded for it. It's a real positive program. Yeah.
Is the hospital involved in that? I mean, I'm thinking
I think
about
they
the
are.
big
I think
massive-
St. Charles is, yes. Did you have another comment?
In terms of getting businesses involved, I've been a sustainability business consultant for the last 17 years. And if you come to the problem from the lens of climate change only, you're going to get less engagement. My experience has been, I'll give an example of a public case study, is Arby's, the roast beef sandwich company, big national chain. I worked with their executive team back in 2012. We set goals, and setting the goal, you have to be careful in that process, right? You have to set a goal that is ambitious enough, that it's inspiring, but that it's also achievable. We set a 15% reduction in energy consumption across their approximately 1,000 corporate-owned restaurants across the nation by 2015, and earlier this year achieved that goal spot on. But when you talk to the executive team, it's always about what are the financial savings, because I consider energy efficiency kind of the gateway drug to sustainability, the gateway drug to addressing climate change. So with the internal rate of return across a portfolio of projects we implemented for them, again, across that 1,000-store footprint, the internal rate of return was about 87%. Pretty impressive. Beat out many of their other corporate investment opportunities, and they invested many $1 million in that. Now that's obviously a much bigger scale than what we're talking about here in Central Oregon, but the point I'm trying to make here is engage businesses through the energy savings, because you know what, when I presented to the executive team and I only presented, here are the financial savings, here's the internal rate of return from these energy efficiency, I did a slight mention at the end, you know, and of course there are some corresponding environmental benefits, but that was all I said. And the president of the company stood up at the end and said, in addition to all these benefits, there's the employee morale and engagement, and the press benefits, and they've received awards from the Department of Energy, and a lot of recognition. So when we talk about carrots, we also need to think how do we get them engaged initially, and dollars talk to businesses.
Excellent, excellent. And did I see some hands back here from people we haven't heard from yet? I guess not. Kim.
One of the things that we promote to local businesses is EPA has free software called Portfolio Manager that you can track your performance on energy, on water, and now they've come out with a waste management segment of that, which is brand new, but it allows them to start looking at life cycle issues of some of the products and things that they buy and the waste that they're generating. So it's free software, it's available to any business, and it really, you can't improve anything if you can't measure it. And so the first thing is getting them to look at how much energy that they're using, how much water they're using, and then to go from there. So it's a good free first step. And I know Portland, it would be great if Bend set limits on and required business buildings to report their energy usage and stuff. It may take a long, long time for Bend to get to the point where we require that, but this is just something that free that they can start using to start seeing what is happening right now so they can do something about it.
Excellent. Gets back to that tracking mechanism that we need. And I think there was a hand over here, David.
I mentioned this to a couple people yesterday. I think we have a real opportunity in Bend, whether you love the tourism industry or not. We have, I think they say 20,000 people, extra people here in the summer. And we can talk all about ourselves and how we're going to make our community great, but we have a real opportunity to educate these folks who are passing through our town every day. And so perhaps part of the Bend brand, as we bring in all these tourists, is have them leave after their experience here educated a little bit about how they get to live life differently when they go back home. I go to Worthy a lot, but I didn't learn until yesterday all the stuff they're doing there. So maybe we could be much more visible on the things that we are doing, but also figure out ways to get the tourism industry at the table and understand they have a valuable role to educate folks. My pet peeve is going to a hotel that has a free breakfast, and then I go through more styrofoam in a half hour than I do the rest of the year. And and that's just an example, but could Bend do things differently as far as recycling and waste reduction so that when people leave their tourism experience here, we have a multiplier effect, because not only are we doing good things, but those people are going to go home thinking, hey, I learned something in Bend, let's do it in our town.
Well, excellent idea, but also with some of those people that come here from Portland and the Valley, they're educating us on how we should be improving. But yes, it would be good to maybe find some of those hotel, lodging, and restaurants that are doing a good job, and maybe think how we can get them to promote their good ideas.
There's a
And
question in the far back there.
Courtney.
So I am in tourism as well as electric bikes, and I do bike tours, and I work with the Bend Tour Company. And Visit Bend has a campaign called Visit Like a Local right now. And what we do with our tours, and what I always love to do, is show people from out of town how we do it here. And I think people are doing that around town in tourism, but you're right, we need to get a little more buy-in and a little more just participation in the tourism industry, but there are folks doing it right now.
so maybe if we had a conversation, could we have a conversation with the Visit Bend folks and see how we can assist that promotion of raising community awareness, just throwing out that idea there. And I know there was another hand here. Where did it go? Evan?
New hand.
I'll get you next.
I moved here from Boulder, Colorado in June, and one of the things that they are moving towards, I think it's going to be implemented in January, is all businesses in the city of Boulder are required to recycle and to provide recycling to their customers. I was pretty shocked at how many businesses don't even have a recycle option in Bend. So that would be something, and then also, I know I sound like a broken record, but workplace charging stations would also be a good one.
We need broken records. I think you were next.
On the thread of recycling, we have a lot of events here all throughout the year, and especially in the summertime, and I know that that's a source of a lot of waste that doesn't end up recycled. I know of a couple of kind of startup businesses that have tried to position themselves and as the solution, and they've had a lot of trouble even getting in the door with whoever's organizing the festivals, whether it's the city, I'm not sure. So I really think that it would be great to have a zero waste festival environment here, and be a place where when tourists come, they get out of their cars
And they don't, they've driven a long way probably to get here, so wouldn't it be great if they were like, oh, we're in bed now, we don't need our car, and, we go to the festival and we get a reusable mug and there's no plastic, et cetera.
I love that idea. And Theo, I think we're about due here. We have 2 minutes left. Any other questions after Theo, real quickly?
Well, I have a problem, maybe
Or
you can.
comments?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we have one more.
My church uses compostable things for their events. And we used to take them to Fields Farm, and they would put them in their compost. But now they can't take it anymore. And I've called all over Bend, and there really isn't another solution.
There is.
There is.
Yeah, the city of Bend, not landfill, has a commercial food waste program. We have a bin at our.
Yes.
And you just put all your compostable ware in there and they come take it, so.
My problem is the cost of it right now for our church.
It's a little more complicated than that.
So maybe we need to have some conversations with Ben Garbage, and I know that they were here yesterday. Oh, okay, so maybe, do you want to comment on that?
I spoke with you.
Yeah.
We have we have a commercial food waste program. And it's on the foodware, it's still a pilot program a bit because there's been a lot of discrepancies on whether it's a certified compostable material. And I think you've heard a little bit over it in Portland, some of the composting facilities, those plastics aren't breaking down and they're being left in the material. But we do offer commercial food waste with our customers. Any ones that are trying to do compostable foodware, if they're making that investment, we are trying to work with them. Environmental Center is one of them that does it, and it's been a small enough volume. We've had issues with the plastic bags. We've no longer been able to collect those, but so far with the foodware, it's been okay. And we do work with Phil, with the Groomsmen is a new business that is trying to do the zero waste, and we partnered with him and have provided him what he needs with it. So we're hoping that that grows, but I think the compostable foodware itself is a program that's developing, but really the major goal is to get to the reusable and get just not even using those at all, which is a big task.
Yeah. So do you have any other suggestions for how we can encourage this process?
As far as the compostable foodware?
And, just reducing waste in general from food.
It's difficult, I mean, we're just trying to reduce as well, and reuse, but as far as the restaurant businesses and to-go containers, that's a big challenge, yeah, so I don't have a solution for that right now.
So maybe we're gonna have to talk to the Restaurant Association, and I know that you had, well, I guess we can take maybe one more, and then we probably need
And
to
I'd
finish.
like to say something for
Okay.
This can just be a quick comment. As someone that just graduated from college and being a part of student-run organizations, there's a ton of energy at universities, and obviously with the new one that just got put in, and a lot of students have this energy that they want to make environmental impacts, but they have absolutely no direction. And so I kind of encourage older people here to really put yourself out as mentors to really help bring these students into a more aligned point of view. Otherwise, projects do get put up that to the public maybe looks a little silly and naive. So I think if you have time, kind of look into that avenue.
How great to have that perspective.
I just want to comment, it may be a dove for people, but I'm observing there's a lot of capacity here in Bend, and energy, and people with knowledge, and bringing them together and tapping into it. I suspect there's 10 times what we're seeing here at this conference available. If you could pull that together and get people talking to each other, there's a tremendous energy with people relating to each other and talking to each other. And so I just came out of Las Vegas at a conference. It was friends groups. I don't know if you know what friends groups are. They take care of the adopt areas. Wow. I mean, I came out of that conference so energized. And so having events that bring people together, whether it's a small groups, there's a climate cafe coming up after this where people are going to get to relate and talk to each other, talk about where can we go from here. But I really think it's important that we continue to sponsor getting people together to talk about it.